Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of How to Get More Customers if you're a local business. My name is Jeff Harrison. I own a company called Swing Point Media, and we're sponsored by Swing Point Media and, of course, Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Katie and Dawn and Annie of the Chamber of Commerce at Rancho Mirage for sponsoring this to help you as local business owners take an opportunity to kind of step out of the chaos of day-to-day business and say, hey, what can I do to make my boat go faster without working harder? And that's really the goal today, because all businesses would survive if they just had more customers, if they have a good product and good service. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of hair in my eye. This is a live show, so this is a live activity. I want to thank you for joining me again. My name is Jeff Harrison. Today, we're going to dive into a topic, but I want to start out with something. It's a little different. If you've seen these before, we talk about content. And I'm going to take a layer back on this, and I want you to be involved with this. So I want to share a quote that says, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I can move the world." Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough, and I can move the world. When I think about this, this is something that was in Archimedes back many, many centuries ago. He basically understood the power of leverage. And that's really what our topic is today, is leverage. And when I'm talking about leverage, I'm talking about in a positive way. What can you and I do as business owners to leverage our time? Because how many of you have actually worked really hard, and yet somebody who does as much or less than you seems to get further ahead? So it's not working harder, and it's really not even working smarter. It's just like that example of that plumber who's called out. You've been working on your plumbing for a while. He comes out and in 5 minutes fixes it. It's not that you don't have the same hammer that he used to tap on the pipe. He just knew where to tap. Well, that's kind of like leverage. When you know where you can put your time in, you can get a lot of results with less effort because it's more focused. There's a saying that says you can take the biggest magnifying glass on the brightest, sunniest day, and if you don't focus its beam, if we don't focus our attention, we will never start a fire. Well, the same thing when we are working on things. If we're scattered and we're trying to do too many things, we're trying to do 10 levers, we're trying to pull 10 levers at one time. Imagine how difficult that would be. Then we're probably not going to succeed very well. In fact, we're probably not going to succeed at all. We're going to be really good or mediocre at best in most of our efforts. And then we're going to possibly take on that mindset of, well, that doesn't work. And yet there's tons and tons of data that shows it does work. So today, I want to break down this statement again. Give me a place to stand. Well, what does stand mean? Well, this is my definition of what a stand means. Stand, to me, as a business owner in this context, give me a place to stand, is what are you going to do as a local business owner to get your message out that is solution-based? Now, I'm going to take a slight curve here, because if you're just joining us, I want you to think about when you put content out. I don't care if you've been a business owner for 22 years and you have great service. I want to know, can you solve my problem? And the best way to do that is to create solution-based content, whether it's a video or audio or written, whatever you want to do. When we talk about standing, this is where what I want you to decide is, hey, what kind of content am I going to take a stand on? What is my platform going to be as far as message is concerned? Am I going to put it out in written form, audio form? Am I going to make a video? What am I going to do? Is it just going to be a series of infographics? What's my platform? Where am I going to stand? This is real important, because when you start trying to be in too many places at one time, just like that unfocused magnifying glass, you're going to find it very, very difficult to get any leverage. And what I mean by leverage is you're not going to get a chance to get much traction with people hearing you and seeing you who are your ideal audience. I'll give you an example. I have a podcast called The Local Voice. And when I first started, I went gangbusters with it, and I got about 50 episodes put together. And then I got busy doing something else because I thought, well, maybe I should be doing written blogs. So I started writing blogs, and now I've got about 40 or 50 blogs on my website. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I should be doing more videos. And so I started this program of doing videos. Well, I probably would have been better off. So I'm speaking of, hey, this is something I've learned through my trial and error, which is one way to learn by the errors others make. And this is a lesson I've learned. I need to focus on one platform. So my focus is I'm going to be on video. I've decided my platform that I'm going to communicate with my ideal customers and solve their problems will be with video. So that's your stand. So I just want you to think about, hey, when Archimedes said this, give me a place to stand. Give me a place to write. Give me a place to talk. Give me a place to shoot videos. What is it going to be? And then I'm going to stand there. Okay? So you need to decide. That's step number one. Where am I going to stand? Then let's talk about the lever. Now, since we're co-sponsored by the Rancho Mirage Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce is a lever. And what I mean by that is, now that I've written or made a video, how can I get it out to more people? As an example, if I'm doing this program and I'm doing it for one person, there's some leverage there. I'm now sharing my message with one person. But if I can take this same message and I can now share it with 1,000 people or even 100 people who are more likely my ideal client that I can help solve their problem, maybe they need to get more customers, an example, then I've leveraged my stand. I've leveraged my video. I've leveraged my time. So all of a sudden, I've taken, let's say this takes a half an hour, and it takes another half an hour to edit it and distribute it. Well, I've invested 1 hour of time, but now if I can show it indefinitely, and again, if 100 people see it, I've now, in this case, I've 100x'd my effort. So when I would ask questions like, man, how can people like Elon Musk do so much? How can people like Katie Stice seem to be like she's everywhere? She is leveraging where she's standing. And she's using that by saying, hey, if I can produce one piece of content, or I can produce a piece of content one time and then put it out on platforms, and this is the lever, then I can now multiply my exposure. And now instead of me speaking to one person, I can speak to hundreds or thousands, and in some case, millions, depending on where your marketplace is. So when we talk about lever, I want you to think, hey, where can you put your content where it can get more and more of your ideal customers seeing it? Well, I'll give you a perfect example. If you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce at Rancho Mirage, this is something they allow us to do. Our content, because now I have a writer working for us, is they will write a piece of content, let's say on leverage. Every week, we create a piece of content that's written by one of our writers. I give them the topic, do my research, say, hey, write an article about this. And then they're going to be sending it over to the Chamber of Commerce, who then puts it out on their blog post and puts it out with a notification on their social media platforms. So if they have 500 people a month coming to their website, the chances are some of those people will see that blog post. If they have, 3 or 4 or 5,000 people a month coming to their Facebook page or their social media platform that they share it on, there's a good chance more people will see that. That's a great way for me to leverage one piece of information across multiple, with many, many people. So what are other areas? As an example, I'm a member of BNI. It's a Business Network International. And something that's interesting about that organization is I can speak to other organizations. I think there's 1,000 of them across the country, across the world, actually. And I can communicate with people within that network of group of people doing what we call one-on-ones. We've all done things like that. Well, that allows me to leverage that out. That's an opportunity that I didn't have. That's one of those, what's my lever, right? I know where to stand because this is the type of content I'm making, and I'm going to leverage it out. Another place, let's think about this. Is Facebook a place where you can use as a lever? I'm going to say yes and no. Same thing with almost all social media platforms, because they're really no longer just a place where we share our moments and pictures and things of that nature. It's really a pay to play platform. And I can point it out over and over and over again where we've had customers come along and they say, or they ask questions, gosh, I do all this stuff with my Facebook page and I don't get any likes, comments, or shares. Part of that is because your reach, or where your message, your lever, is really short, right? The lever being Facebook. But now, when it used to be, hey, if I had 100 followers, 95 of them would see my message. Now it's more like I have 100 followers, one sees my message, maybe, in their timeline. So is that the best lever? The answer was no and yes. If you take that same lever or that same message and you say, hey, what I want to do now is I want to add a little advertising behind it. Something simple, $5 a day. You know, if you put something, let's say you produce one piece of content and you put a $5 a day ad budget behind it, which quite honestly is enough in a local market. If you're doing regional or statewide, you probably want to consider a larger budget to reach more people. But in this situation, I'll give you an example. I won't mention names, but one of our newer clients, we've now done 3 videos for them. We just posted the 4th one yesterday. And in that time, we saw 1,500, 2,500, and 4,000 views on their videos, on their content. And so what's happening now are more people are messaging them and they're asking for help. They're leaving comments. They're sharing the video. And more importantly, he's getting calls about his business. So that's a way to leverage that. And we've spent $75. Well, it's really tough to run ads someplace else and get that kind of exposure for targeted advertising for $75. So is Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, for that matter, are those platforms great to just put them out there and hope something happens? Probably not. But if you put a little advertising money behind it, it's probably a very good way to do that. So again, places where your levers are. If you put something out and it has a very low exposure rate, maybe today it's a newspaper. You know, most of us have gone digital. Very few people really looking through the newspaper anymore. You look at the newspaper numbers and they say, well, like when I first moved to the desert, maybe they had 200,000 people subscribing to the local newspaper. Now it's probably in the neighborhood of 20,000. Even though the desert has grown, fewer and fewer people take that newspaper delivered on their doorstep, which means the chances of them accidentally seeing my information on page 7 or page 27 or running through the classified gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's not much different than Facebook. The difference is even when I run ads and I pay for them in that particular thing, the lever is quite small. Radio, and again, I'm not picking on anybody. These are some facts. This is some data. Most cars now come standard with what? Satellite radio. What does that do to your local radio stations? Sometimes that just completely bypasses them. It reminds me of the story whenever a new freeway goes in, and it used to be a really thriving little community, but because when they built the freeway, they bypassed that community, all of a sudden nobody stopped at Happyville anymore. And its ability to thrive and survive went way down because the traffic that used to come right through downtown and sell donuts and sell t-shirts and all that kind of stuff, it's all gone. It makes it harder. The same thing when you start going onto a platform where the reach and the audience are way, way down. So we've talked about, hey, where to stand. Standing is, how am I going to get my message? What message am I going to get out there as far as what media is it? Is it written? Is it audio? Is it a video? When I say audio, it could be a podcast. Geez, those are easier and easier to put together nowadays, is an audio podcast. And share your message. That could be the place, like every time your clients, your potential customers have a problem and you solve it and you have an answer, whoa, there's another potential audio program, another podcast for you. And then you can share that. Another place that is a lever that is really, really strong, probably your best of all of them, is an email database. If you have an email database, I don't care if it's 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, that is probably your best bet to share your communication with, because these people are more likely, if they've trusted you enough to give their email address and their first name or their full name, or quite frankly they've done business with you and now they're in a database because they've given you their money, the no like trust factor is way up. So the chances, if you don't send out garbage, in other words, if you don't send out how great I am kind of information, and you don't always ask to, buy me, but you're actually adding value, the chances are your return on that is going to be very high. In fact, the statistics, I think this was about a year ago, for every dollar you spend in an email, the return is 45. So it's a 45 to 1 return by using an email database. How many of you, if you gave me $1, I'd give you $45 back. How many of you would keep giving me dollars? And yet I see more and more people who have databases who say, I don't want to send my stuff. I don't want to send my database anything because I don't want to bug them. I don't want to think they're spam. Well, if you think what you're sending is spam, it probably is. But if you're sending problem-solving ideas, emails, these are things that they will find valuable. And here's the real kicker. They will find shareable. And they'll find customers for you out there. So if somebody says, well, I get all my business on, repeats and referrals, that's fantastic. But wouldn't it be nice that whenever your ideal customers, your best customers are out there in the marketplace and you're not right beside them, that you have really what I call loaded their lips by giving them information that they can talk about. We all want to talk about something besides just the weather, right? We want to talk about the fact that, hey, Steve Smith of Steve Smith Smith Tile and Upholstery Cleaning and Carpet Cleaning, they do X, Y, and Z, and they can get these stains out. All that kind of stuff. Somebody says, oh, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, gosh, you got to see Steve at Smith Carpet Cleaning and Upholstery. This is what they did at my house. Well, if you send out those kind of stories, you're helping them, your best customers, talk about something besides the weather. It's no different than if you walk into a business and they've got the TV on and it has ads running for your competitor. Shame on you. You want to have closed circuit television so that when your message goes out or your customers walk in this case, when they open the email, you are in control of the message. You are helping them understand the value of who you are. So if you want to move the world, in this case, your local world, and get more customers, first of all, you got to know where to stand. What am I going to do? And I'm going to suggest doing this. I want you to stand in one place, meaning pick your format. Are you going to write something? Are you going to do an audio? Or are you going to do a video? What are you going to do? Or are you just going to be somebody who does images? And that's okay too, but be good at it and pick one. And once you got really good at it, I'm not talking 2 or 3 emails or 2 or 3 posts. I'm saying you're really good at it and you've seen the returns, then add something. So pick where you're going to stand. Then pick your lever. And the way you do that, guys and gals, is this. Hey, where is my ideal customer hanging out? Some people say, oh, Facebook, they're not there anymore. There's billions of people logging into Facebook every day. I had somebody tell me on Monday, well, I don't think our ideal customer is on Facebook, because our ideal customer is a little older. That's the fastest growing segment on Facebook is 55 and older. That comes from just not knowing of where your ideal customers are hanging out. They're more likely to see your content if you're there. Now, the example I always use, and I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but if I were going to go fishing, if you were going to go fishing, and we decided the type of fish we wanted to catch, let's say in this case it's trout, would we go someplace where there are no trout known to be swimming in that stream or that pond or that lake? Absolutely not. That's a waste of time. So if you know your ideal customer is not on TikTok, you shouldn't be there because they're not there. If you keep posting things where there's no audience, what will happen? You'll get no results. It's crazy, right? But it's crazy simple. So, where to stand? That means how am I going to put what message am I going to put out? What format am I going to put my message out? The lever. What am I going to use to put my message out? One of each, and get really, really good at it, right? If you're going to do Facebook or you're going to do YouTube or Instagram, don't be afraid to put a little ad money behind it, because that's going to create a bigger reach for you. And then finally, this starts moving your world. Now, sometimes people say, oh, that Harrison guy, he's so lucky. The phone rings, and this kind of stuff happens. Well, this is how this works. When you or I write a piece of content, or we make a video, or we do a podcast, it lives indefinitely. Because here's the thing, and this is something I learned a long time ago, that if I sell refrigerators, I need to be running a refrigerator ad all the time. Why? Because your ideal customers are not always in the market for a refrigerator, but when they are, that's when this little thing called the reticular activating system opens up and says, oh, look at ABC Appliance has sales going on refrigerators. But up until that point, it was a blind spot in their world. They never even noticed that ad had been running every day for 365 days for 5 years. That's consistency. So my point is when you put content on your website, and let's say it's, again, it's how do I get more customers as a local business, right? And I have that piece of content written, it's on my website. Now you as a local business who maybe needs to know that answer, you type it into Google, and guess what happens? Maybe my article comes up to the top. Maybe my video shows up, and you watch that. And some of this, in fact, all of this will be pretty relevant today and 10 years from now, just like it was 10 years ago. Now, are the levers different? Sure, they're different. But will you always need a place to stand and always need a lever so you can move your world? Absolutely. So if you get good at those two things, gang, you can be very, very good at attracting new business. If you like this, please join me again every Wednesday. We go from 11 to about 11:30, and we talk about topics that will help you get more customers as a local business. We are Swing Point Media. We focus really in a couple of different markets. We really focus on helping HVAC companies stand out from the noise. Because let's face it, at last I heard, a dear friend of mine said, hey, there are over 500 licensed contractors in the desert. I think now there's probably more. So how do you stand out? Well, we have what we call a blue ocean strategy. Yeah, there was a book written about that. The idea is, how do you make yourself different? How do you make yourself different? Well, you have to say, well, we have great service. Everybody has great services. It should be great service. Well, we do this, we do that. There has to be something you do that's unique. I'll give you an example. Many, many years ago, there was this man named Paul Whiteman in Tucson, Arizona. He owned a Buick dealership. And there were other Buick dealerships. Let's face it, if you're a Buick dealership A and you're a Buick dealership B, are the cars different? No, they're not. They're exactly the same Buicks, right? So how did he stand out? Every time he delivered a brand new car, guess what was in the front seat of every brand new car they delivered? A dozen fresh cut red roses. That helped him stand out as the dealership to go to. There was no one else in his category. Whenever anyone had wanted to buy a Buick, where'd they go? They went to Royal Buick in Tucson. That was a place. Now, I want to share something with you. That happened to me, gosh, I hate to say this, but almost 35 years ago, and I still remember that. That's the difference of being in a red ocean and a blue ocean. I couldn't, with a gun to my head, probably tell you the other Buick dealership that was in that town. I didn't know, but I know Royal Buick and Paul Whiteman, the dealer, 35 years later, because of the red roses. So I challenge you, What are your red roses to move you from the red ocean of there's competition to your own blue ocean where there is no competition. Nobody does what you do. Again, my name is Jeff Harrison. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any comments or questions, we'll take that now. What can you do to get started? Well, first of all, decide what your stand is. What kind of content, what format are you going to build it in? And then you want to say, where am I going to publish this stuff? The first place you ought to do it is, and I want you to write this down, never build your house on rented land. What I mean by that, please own the website. That should be the first place you put your content, whether it's video, written, or podcast. That's where it should be because you own that platform. Then put it out on Apple or Spotify or YouTube or Facebook. Those are rented land. And what I mean by that is that owner of that land, that platform, can change the rules. They do all the time. Just in January, end of January, there was a big rule change on Facebook and then another one on Google. Did it disrupt our customers? No, because we build their product and their messages on properties they own, their website. They own the website. Nobody can take that away from them. So that's the first place. So please do that. Again, my information is I'm going to put on the screen here. My name is Jeff Harrison of Swing Point Media. If there's anything I can do to help you, we don't work in all areas of businesses, but the fundamentals are the same. So whether you're a hairdresser like my wife who owns a salon in the La Quinta Cove, or you're a pool company, it doesn't matter. The fundamentals are the same. Give me a call. I'd love to help you out. Until next week, thank you so much. We'll see you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.